Hello and welcome to episode 50 of building a Flutter game in 2D for multiplayer. Let's do this again. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome to the 50th episode of building a multiplayer 2D game in Flutter. This will also be the last episode. So what we'll do, we'll look at where we are, what our game is doing, we'll fix one problem that we still have, and then we'll basically just collect all these items that we're still to do if we were to release this in production, right? We're going to look at what would we still have to fix on the client side and what would we have to fix on the server side. As you can see, I'm running this game here now on my phone with one, and you can actually see that over here in my computer, where I'm basically mirroring the phone screen with str copy. Looks like this, str copy if you want to install that. Now, here I'm running the same game with Mac. With the Mac OS, so you can see that this works in multiple platforms. So this is fine. What we do see here, though, we do see a little bit of hiccups, right? So that's one problem we have that we probably won't solve in this episode, but we'll put a note in the to-do. This is due to the client-side prediction getting out of sync with the server, and we see this more pronounced because here on Mac OS, right? Here we don't see this as much, and the reason is because we are actually on the same machine, right? So the messages get sent much faster, whereas my phone is actually truly communicating over Wi-Fi, right, to my machine where the server's running. So server's running over here, right, on my machine. And so what we'll do now is we'll show one problem that we're going to actually fix. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot the other player here, if I can. Oh, not that easy. So let me shoot this guy. All right, now I'm shooting that guy. If you can see that the other player is almost dead now. But what I want to make sure is I don't hit a wall when I shoot him. So to show that, so now we are. So did you see how it took a while for the new game to come up when I won? That's because we took a shortcut last time, where we basically were listening for updates to our own health to basically get notified about that we were basically dead. So let's sorry that we won in that case, right? Which is here when we die, we get that update immediately. So then we're actually fine. And can you also see here this problem? So this is the prediction of the other player, which is basically off, right? We can see that the other player is basically jumping around a little bit, and that's because we needed to find a different way to basically, whenever the server reports a different position than we are at, instead of just jumping to it, what we should probably do is adapt our own velocity to where slowly but surely we'll get to that position. Like we'll basically converge with what the server is thinking, but not that abruptly. Okay, so now obviously here this works, new game works. Now this guy also has to say I want a new game. And so one thing we're also missing here, that the other guy, like I can move him. You can see like I'm doing this with my phone, obviously, right? I'm playing with my phone here. So this all works, but shooting doesn't work yet. So we can shoot. Maybe we'll fix that too. But the remaining things we leave to you as a watcher. If you wanted to make this game more professional, you could. I'm going to tag this episode. Thinking of that. Tag episode 50 start. All right, so we ready to go. So let's fix this first problem first. We'll keep these running, and basically I'm gonna outline the problem again here. What we're having is basically forget all my shortcuts. All right, here we go. Basically, what we're doing in order to figure out if the game is over for the winner, we are listening to the stats of our player, which means we won't know that that the other player died until we get updates about our own stats. And we only get updates about our own stats if they change, which means if we also take a health hit or something, like if we hit a wall. So that obviously is not acceptable. So let's look at where this is defined. So we have the game state here. And we also have the sync here. So this is actually really convenient because we can just say, whenever we get a sync here, we are also going to update some other stats, right? The stats of the other players, basically. In this case, we are interested in kind of like the game stats. So here we have these stats, and we could actually argue it's like, okay, we can have the stats about our own health, but maybe we can just include stats about the game as well. We could do that, or we could have a separate thing, right? So let's go back to actually where this is used to maybe get a better idea. So let me close this down. So here we have the game state stats, and I mean, it would make sense to just include it there. So that way we make our life a lot easier. And if we ever have an issue with it, we can always still change it. So I think that's what I'm actually going to do. So it's a client game where. So I lost this now. I think it's a game state. All right. So sorry, we need the stats, right? Yeah. So we need these stats. All right. These are defined in the game model. Could move them out if you wanted to, but basically what we want to know is how many players are still alive, right? And that's an int. Okay. So we make this required. Okay, and then here we're also going to put the health here, and we just put the players alive here as well. Okay, so now we got that. So now we have to override the equals function. You have to say that the players and players alive is the same as the other players alive. And then obviously here we have to do something like this, where we have to OR it with our placeLife.hash code. That should normally work. The initial one, well, kind of we don't know how many players are alive, right? So that's kind of, let's see where we're actually invoking this. We're invoking this here. Do we know how many players are alive? Maybe we do. So let's say game dot, so we make sure if it's 0, number of alive players. And so let's just rename that to players. That is much shorter. And let's go, so initial, and so we pass it in here. All right, and let's make it pretty. All right, cool. So now we got this going. And you can see now that whenever these stats would change, which means we would get our update here, and we basically would have that fixed. It's not the most clean way. I wouldn't be proud of it, but it would work. And obviously then when we get production ready, we'd fix some of those things. But for now, this works. And the thing is why I don't want to like lose too much thought about it, or like think too much about it, is because we don't know what other stats we have. Once we have a bunch of other stats in here, then maybe we'll say, okay, it doesn't make sense to keep all this together. But maybe then we'll have another thing like the game stats or something. But right now we only have 2. So we don't want to over optimize this and over complicate this beforehand. So when we sync, we basically are updating our own. So here we have add stats player, right? But actually, what we also need to pass here So actually we need to remember the stats of the player, and we need to do this at the very last moment when we know how many players are actually still alive. Or we just determine it beforehand. So let's just look at how the game state is actually determining this. Game state of players where, right? So we could actually do this ahead. So the thing is that this is also game state, right? So basically we know this already. So we could just say server state dot players alive players. Okay, this is interesting. So why is this not? This is not on the game state. We put it on the game, on the client game. So yeah, we can't use that, but maybe we can use that method because it's the same thing. Here we say the game state players. So we could actually make this a method. Let's make it a static method. I don't want to put stuff directly on the game state, but we could probably do some helpers. So do we have, I think we have some helper methods here for our controllers and so on. Let's see if we have some kind of where we would need them. Don't really, I mean, it doesn't really belong in the controllers. So what I want to do is I'm just going to add this logic to the game state itself. So the game state can have logic. So we're going to do that. And we're going to say static int players alive, and we give it a game state. So I don't want to put it on the instance app because that to me doesn't seem right. What I want to do though is I want to expose helper methods that are related to it. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so we got players alive, and now we can go here and we can just say game state state dot players alive, and let me just pass this dot games. We pass our game state, right? Okay, so now we got this. Now we pulled this out, and now we can use it here, where we can say game state dot players alive, and this will be the server state. So this should actually be able to tell us what's going on. So the thing is, it seems weird, right? You would argue, well, if we never get data about ourselves, then we would never update the other players either, and that's totally valid. However, like we always get updates about ourselves, so this is not entirely clean, but we're okay with it for now. So live, and then here we pass it in players alive. It's still complaining, I think. Okay, so we got that. All right. Okay, and then if they're the same, we did override the equals method, right? For that reason, so that we detect that if anything changed, then we'll get an update. And then we add it. Yeah, so this should be perfect. So let's just what we'll just do a hot restart on both of those. Now this didn't affect the server, so we wouldn't have to do anything there. All right, so they're both waiting now. Okay, so now what I can do, I can shoot the other player, and I should immediately get. And you see, you won immediately. So we fixed that. Perfect. That was an easy one, right? So let's check that in. Let's see what the last message was. I think we're complaining. Preliminary player win screen, right? So what we can do is game fixing player win, or immediately. Is that how you spell it? No. Okay, something like that. That works. So now we're pretty good. Now the only thing left that I wanted to actually really fix is to be able to be press new game here. Now this one is waiting. We have to also press new game here. And now we're playing again. Now the thing is that I want to be able to shoot, and I can't. I only can fly. And so basically we need to see that, and this is horrible, right? This is definitely not how you would want to go to production. But again, I'm not going to fix everything here. I basically just wanted to get to a state where we can say, okay, we have a working game, and now we can go and piece by piece improve on it, right? So let's see where we are actually looking for the keys and so on, right? So there is something, we have inputs, and I can't remember where I put them. Player inputs. Oh, we go here, right? We have the input types here. So let's look where we use that. Input processor, yes. So basically you can see here that the input processor, so we can see that they're aggregated gestures. And when we are looking for, if we can fire, we are only looking for if the key contains game fire, but you also need to look at if maybe the gestures dot, so we need to figure out how that one worked. Dot. So we only look for rotation and thrust. So that's interesting, right? So let's look at those. So those are the gestures. And we don't have anything for shooting yet. So we have something here, fire, right? We already have that in here. Oh no, that's the game key, sorry. So the gestures, we don't ever send along. What we want to do, we want to say bool shot or fired. So we say and required, and like this will basically get us to, if I go and I change our dart types to actually warn us, and then we change them back, we should now get warning. See, here you go. So now we can go backwards and figure out. So here we have fire. Now we are in the gestures. Okay, this is interesting. Actually, I might have to steal some code from the previous implementation. I think it's in here. So let's look in here, and so we don't have to reinvent something we already solved. So gestures here, we are basically on pen. So we have an on tap here. There you go. So that's what I was thinking. So we need, there's an on tap as well as an on pen update. And then we just basically here we have a bool shot. And when we create them new, we say shot equals false. Right? So we didn't shoot in beginning. And so when we tab shot is true, then when we send the gestures, we gonna give it shot. And then we reinitialize to shot equals false. Okay. So now, oh, it's called fire. Okay. So let's just rename this also to fire, be consistent, not filler. All right, so we got this now, and we should be pretty good. So now obviously we need to hook this up. So let's see where we hook this up here. So we didn't hook it up anywhere. Here we go. So basically in our stack, right, wherever we have on pen update, well, obviously, right, that makes sense. We also have that hooked up. So All right, you're too slow today. Intelligent on pen update. There you go. So here, we're gonna do on tap game gestures dot instance dot on tap. Let's see if it's happy. Yes, it's happy. Everything is happy. Cool. So now we have to obviously go back to the dot types, and we need to disable this, otherwise we can't run it in Flutter, unfortunately. We can't run the server anymore. Well, okay, so now we should almost be able to maybe do a hard reload. So I can't remember which one is which though. It looks like our phone stopped, right? So let's see. So I can tap. Nothing's happening. I may have to do, let me do a hard restart and see if we even had the right one. Yeah, it seems like this was not the one. It's like, it looks like, yeah, okay, it was the one, okay. But maybe we need a hard restart because we added statics and so on. So let's see, we do a hard restart here as well. So we can play again. And obviously what we could do, we could just play with one player so we don't have to restart. So if this doesn't work, and it doesn't work right now, but let's actually go back, and maybe we're just missing something obvious. So we do on tap. Oh yeah, because in our processor, right, we haven't updated that yet. So we need to actually go here and say, or if our gestures dot fire, right? Doesn't read very well, fired or has fire, but it's fine. So now actually we'll try and do a hot reload real quick and see if that already fixed things. Okay, I can shoot now. You see that? All right, here we go. So you can now shoot by tapping. Okay, we killed the other player. Awesome. That other player also now says game over. This guy says you won. This looks pretty perfect to me. And you can see this SER copy is really, really cool. I can even control my phone from here by pressing things. So I can move, I can rotate, and you see that we're running into some problems here. And this is all due to the server going out of sync with the client. See that the rotation is not really being respected very well. So, but I can shoot, and then the other guy here can defend himself or herself, and then we can shoot here, and then who dies first loses. Okay, so this is pretty cool. Now the only thing left to do is to make a really cool level, try it out a little bit, play a little bit, have fun, and then we'll write down whatever else we'll have to do. So first of all though, I will check this in. And by the way, if you have any questions for the people watching live, chat room is open. Just ask away, and I'll try to see it and answer it. So what we did here is gestures, shooting on tap. All right. One thing I want to point out here is the main problem that we're still facing is due to the fact that we were trying to make the server authoritative, right? I mean, and the only reason, or the main reason why we did it that way, is because we want to make sure that no one can cheat. Now, if we are not worried about cheating, actually some games, they even welcome cheating in a way because it may, it makes people write their plugins or something. If we are not worried about that, then actually a lot of these problems just go away. So after we fix or after we play a little bit around with it, and after we write down what we need to do to make the, to fix this in the authoritative mode. And if you don't remember what authoritative is, make sure to watch some of the previous episodes where I explain this in detail. But we might come to the realization that maybe it's not worth it. And we actually can go back to saying, well, the clients are authoritative for their own actions and for the bullets that they create and spawn. And they can actually tell the server when they hit someone. And then things become a lot easier. And we don't have these problems anymore, the synchronization issues. So this is something to consider when you're writing a game. Like, do you really need to have it perfect? For this series, I wanted to show how you would do it in order to make to make it really like a real world kind of example. And the only thing that's missing is to say, don't jump to the position, but adjust the velocity in a way that the player will basically slowly kind of sync itself with what the server thinks is going on. That's what we have to do to fix this. But we won't in this episode, and this is something that I'll leave as an exercise. But let's go back to maybe, so we have a simple level, and what we basically do, we make another one. Dart first. We need a large level. Let's call it large. And we just paste this in here, and we call it large level. And so now what we'll do, we just makes it a little more fun. So we basically, some of these things I didn't like the whole time were these things. These walls that were just in the way. So we remove those. And what I want to do, I'm just going to copy this a little bit. And then we'll make it bigger. And we'll just move it over. Okay, and then here we just have to replace this with, and you see how kind of nice this actually works. Obviously there are other editors out there, like for instance Tiled, but in this case actually working with strings works quite nicely. I can copy this section using Vim, right? Vim bindings here, and I can then paste it here. I could have also done it in a little better way, where it wouldn't have moved this over, but I can easily just remove it. So let's see, let's remove 2 more and 1 more. Okay, so now we got this. We obviously want to fill this like that. So now we got it already larger level. So now let's get us a few more lines here. And this is just for us to play around. And what we'll do, actually, we're going to have 3 players. So we have 1 player here, another player will start here, and another player will start here. Let's put another diamond in here for fun. Those don't really do anything yet. So actually, let's remove them. These are things that obviously once you wanted to go, after you went to production, most likely, and you have the minimum viable product to show people, that's when you want to maybe go and say, oh, I want to maybe add some things like that people can pick up to get scores, right? So I'm going to make a larger here, a larger little wall here just for fun. Okay, so now we have a larger level. Now obviously we need to change the server to, or everyone actually, to use that larger level. And then we should be set to get going. So let's see. So we got 3 players, and we need to just go to our main game. And wherever it selects the level, actually, it might actually be on the level is simple. So that is defined here, though. Oh, because the client actually tells the server what level to run, as far as I remember. So let's do level large, and let's just follow through what happens. So we send this to the app, and then here we are basically telling, so we're going here, and then when we create the client, we are giving it the level, which then tells the server, okay, I want to play this level, right? Because server should support multiple levels. Obviously, we still have to restart the server because the server doesn't know that level yet. Right, so now obviously these players are all waiting, and what we'll actually do, we do a hot restart here, and we do a hot restart here, and then I'll launch another Mac desktop version, and I'll see if I can get those 3 players. Okay, cannot find level large. Okay, interesting. So we need to go here and add that static const large level. And so this is one way to access it, and we need to import that. All right, and then here we can also say large levels dot large. All right, now we should be in a better state. So let's restart the server again. So a hard restart on our friend here, a hard restart in this, and then we'll start another client because now they are both waiting because the level now requires 3 players. And so let's do that. Let's wait for that to start up. And then we're gonna have some fun. Then we're gonna check everything in. And then we're gonna write up the remaining things. I hope this works. We don't have time for this to not work. I wanna have enough time to basically kind of, you know, point out like where would you go from here. So this is a part that I understand that Flutter is really fast once your app is running. What I don't understand is why it keeps rebuilding. Well, I mean, I guess we changed some things, right? We changed the levels. Actually, it might be that, okay, so we got this. Okay, it looks like we have a large level here. So we got, this is our Nexus app. This is one of our Macs, and then we should have another Mac over here, which is just above this. Okay, cool. So let's make this one bigger. This one gonna have huge advantage. That's why they also think you should consider for this game is like, wow, you know, this guy is definitely gonna win because he can see things way before the other guys see him. So these are all the Mac ones, and let's just say this guy, other guy is like doesn't know how to play the game. So now this guy can shoot. We can also shoot now with arrows. Okay, now they kind of see each other, right? So let's see. I'm gonna try to shoot this guy. All right, so okay, so we shot one guy, but the game is not over yet, right? Because there's still one guy alive. So this guy can now say, I want to start a new game. So let's actually do that. So this guy starts a new game. Let's do that. So he's waiting for players because these guys here are still at it, right? They're still playing, and no one else, let's just say no one else on the internet wants to play the game yet. So now I'm going to try to shoot this guy. Okay, so now I won, right? So now I'm going to tell this guy to start a new game on my phone, right? Over here I did that. And then I'm going to tell this guy I'm starting a new game. And now they'll start a new game. This works. This is working. So we got some really important pieces working here. And we can see that we always still have that problem here, which is probably the most annoying thing that would need fixing if this was to be used for real. Everything else on the client side at least looks good. We got also some good logging going on here, also on the server. So we are in a good space. Now let's kill all this. We're going to kill all of them. We are done playing. We're going to check this in. Basically what we did is we added a large level. Right, with 3 players. All right, cool. Now we come to the part where we basically want to make sure that whoever wants to continue this would know kind of what to do. Assuming that we're going to keep this as an authoritative server kind of thing. What you need to do is client side. First of all, basically sync player position smoothly. Right? So what that means is when position differs from server sent position, don't jump to it immediately. Instead, adjust velocity, player velocity, so that it converges towards the server position. Over time, either sync up or at least they don't go further out of sync without sync. right? So basically, the only further I was saying, even though we don't force correct it with a jump, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is that obviously there's still some networking issues on the client. So basically, when client disconnects, it needs to and basically we need to have a kind of like a reconnect strategy, but there's something called a back off thing. So needs to have a reconnect strategy, right? It's called a circuit breaker. I'm going to link this actually indefinitely. Okay, so what we're going to look is reconnect circuit breaker. No, that's not it. This is interesting. So basically what's happening here is it's used to detect failures and copies of preventing failure from constantly reoccurring during maintenance. So basically what's happening, right? So if a disconnect in that case is considered the failure, right? I can't connect to the client, to the server in this case. And so I can keep trying, but there are numerous things that could have happened. Like either we lost connection for good, or the server is down, right? And so basically at some point I need to basically give up and tell the user that, hey, I can't reconnect, the game is over, right? So we're gonna put this with the link, and so basically if a reconnection fails, right? So that's basically on the client. Now on the server side, we have a lot more things to fix. One is cleaning up games, right? So basically right now, when a game is over, they never get collected, right? So what we need here is, first we need so how do we do that, right? It's easy, right? You say, well, only one player is alive, right? But what if, oh, come on, stop doing that. But what if all players disconnect, right? Or how long can a player be disconnected until it is declared, or disqualified, we can say disqualified and declared dead or whatever, right? So all these things we need to figure out, right? Because the thing is, obviously when the game is over, when only one player is alive, that's easy, right? We're already sending the player count from the server. So once we see that, we would send basically the game over thing, and then we would just collect the game and never communicate to the clients again. We don't have to communicate because there's nothing happening. I mean, we kind of did. Did you see that? well, actually, right, well, only one player is not, right? So when the game is over, it was actually kind of nice. It is nice to show a player still floating around even when game is over, right? So how long do we give all players to restart game before we collect it, right? So that all kind of little issues here. So clean up of games, right? So that's one. Then obviously, like, we need to server needs to handle client reconnecting, right? And that's more, I think that's easier on the server side actually than on the client, because we still have a game. The client just says, let me back in. And so basically, well, we can actually write this out. So basically, when client provides game plus client IDs, we connect the game streams, the update streams, right? So basically what we'll do, we'll take the client stream and we pipe that into our game loop again, and then we give it the update stream of the game. So that's easy, right? That's fairly easy. Thing is though, like, another thing is make the server resilient, right? What happens if server crashes, right? Well, we don't know. Right now it just stops. So basically it needs to have and have it restart. So the thing is, like, this can be handled by tools like systemd could actually do it, or load balancers, right? Speaking of load balancers, right? So right now we are basically depending on the same. So we have sticky sessions. How do sticky sessions work across when we have multiple servers, right? So this is only to be considered. Only need to fix this once we have a certain success. Right? Otherwise, we don't worry about it. The thing is, the idea is that we release this game, we fix these things, at least to not break all the time. But then this one, we don't have to worry about it yet. I mean, we're going to have one server. And we don't worry about that until we have success, right? But basically, in that case, so basically the once we have need to either have so we need to have a way to channel clients to, well, the thing is that they're okay. So actually we need to basically figure out these RPC streams, right? Basically right now we're connecting directly to the server. We need to figure out like which load balancers and also need to support HTTP and all this stuff, as far as I know. Or maybe they don't and they just like pipe it through. But that's something that we need to figure out. So I think I'll leave it here. Oh no, I don't want that. There are lots more things. So then obviously like right, for instance, pickups, right? Have health packets to allow players to pick up and increase their health balance. Other pickups could increase player score or something, right? So you win, but you also win better by scoring. Maybe it's a high score. The other thing is that so there's we could have black holes draw players in to make things more interesting, right? And I just thought of something else that that is important, and then I'll forget it. So we have the pickup. Oh yeah, see the other thing is that visualize thrust plus bullet state. So basically, right, players can only apply thrust at certain intervals, right? And press thrust and shoot. And so basically, it would be nice to visualize the time left until we can do either, right? So basically, it would could look similar. Look similar to the health bar, right? Okay, so these things are all things that I'm going to put this one in a little bit like this, because we're not really going to production. But this would be what we still need to do. So, but we got pretty far. We showed the main ideas, and so I think the mission was accomplished. I wanted to show that it's possible to build a game like this just in Flutter. On the client side, we basically used nothing else. On the server side, obviously, we used some libraries to make our lives a little easier. The other thing to consider is if the server, for instance, was not authoritative, then we wouldn't necessarily need to write the server in Dart. I researched it a little bit, and it's not. Let's just say, for instance, deploying a server. Right, obviously, we need to deploy a server. That's the other thing, right? Right? Deploy server. The thing is that where can we deploy Dart servers? Right. So the thing is, I researched this a little bit, and Heroku, for instance, used to support Dart, but the I don't know what they call it, the packet or whatever that supports this is actually obsolete now. So one could say that, and wouldn't be wrong, that, for instance, Node.js servers are way easier to figure out how to deploy because they're supported in a lot more places, or Go servers and so on, right? So if we wouldn't have an authoritative server, then also the controllers wouldn't have to run on the server, right? Because all we basically do, we send simple messages to the server, and there's no logic basically happening on the server. All the logic would be client side. And so that's something to consider here before we'd invest more time here. So if if you're considering doing a game like that, one thing that this whole series showed is how difficult it actually is to make the server authoritative. It's not impossible or anything, but it adds a lot more complexity and a lot more challenges that you might argue are not necessarily needed if you don't worry about the clients cheating. However, one thing to be also noted is if you decide, oh, I don't think people will cheat, I just want to publish this game, adding an authoritative server afterwards is a lot of work. So if you start with a non-authoritative server and you're pretty sure that you'll have to make it authoritative later, I wouldn't recommend that. But if you just want to place, program a simple game, now you know what it would take to make an authoritative server. And all these things that I wrote down here obviously are fixable, right? It's just some more work. But maybe you want to say, well, for my first game that is multiplayer, I don't care about that as much or enough to make my life so complicated. And with that, I think we're finished. So thank you for watching. Whoever watched the whole series, actually make sure to comment. I want to see if there are actually people that are watching this whole series. I know that there were episodes where we were basically spending a lot of time trying to figure something out, and it probably wasn't the most interesting thing to watch in some places. But you can always forward. But if anyone watched the whole series up to here, all the episodes, please leave me a comment so I know that people actually are that interested in this, which would then compel me to make more episodes like that or more series like that. So thank you for watching, and see you later. Bye bye.